anyway, so she's nearing the end of her 4 weeks. So some of these daily videos may be starting to get repetitive and a little bit boring. They might have started boring, but I have no way of making these any more exciting than they are. They are what they are. And the whole purpose of these videos is for people that truly want to learn, is to watch them in their entirety and pick out the little nuggets as you go, and even maybe go back to something if you need to later. So what I'm going to see, if you guys are interested in, if it would be more helpful, if, you know, because this is a lot. This is a month's worth of training, and it's a lot. It can be very overwhelming, and you may not remember what I did in the first week. You might not even watch the first week or the second week or even the third week. So what I could do is take the whole training bit and pull out the nuggets and put it into one video and then do voiceovers that do teaching moments and kind of explain what's going on, other than learning as it's happening. So it's more condensed and it's easier to digest and comprehend, and it's just in one video. So if you guys are interested in that, it's a lot of editing. So if you're not interested in it, don't tell me you are. I would be more than happy to do it. I actually think it would be quite helpful, but I'm kind of a nerd. So, you know, I'm one of these people that would watch all these videos several times through the whole thing. But, you know, I have realized that I'm not normal, and I'm okay with that. So if you guys are interested in that, you know, in the comments below, let me know, and I will certainly do that. I also have other birds that I have recorded during this time, over the span of the last few years. So, and all doing different naughty things or good things. So I can plug all those in and show how I dealt with it, what I would do differently, what somebody else should do differently, or what is being done right, or whatever. Okay, I'm using my new tripod. Hopefully it will help everybody see a little bit better, because she's getting to where she flies farther and it's harder to see when she's on the ground, even if it's being filmed up off the ground a little bit. So this is day 23. So she's starting her she just finished her 3rd week. This is her 4th week. She's doing quite well, and we'll see how she does. And we'll chat in a minute. I want to add a little bit of context. This is exactly 2 days after she caught a pack rat and received a ginormous crop for it. So she's still quite heavy. Even though her weight, or the scale says 1065, and it should say that she's hungry, her brain still thinks that she's got all that food on board. So she's not quite as hungry as the scale says it is. This is where you have to understand their metabolism, and the scale can say one thing, but it takes a little while before the metabolism catches up. So you got to give it a few days. So what I want to point out in this video, other than me calling her a little turd, she was being a little turd, is this is going to be a really good chat about weight management in this whole video. So be sure to watch this video all the way to the end, because I do debrief and explain this entire session that will help a little bit with those that are trying to understand weight management if you're doing your own bird. So I'm speeding up the video just because I'm sure it's pretty boring to sit here and watch her wait. But it's important to see how long she's waiting, so you understand how long I'm letting her wait before I do something different. So you can hear me explaining to Enedina that if she does it one more time, she's going to go up. I do not want to keep rewarding this behavior, because obviously it's bad behavior and could lead to carrying or other issues. So I would put her up, and that would be the last thing she remembers, is trying to steal a tidbit and then going up without any more food. So that is what her lesson would have been for that day. However, she does stop, and I'll tell you in a minute how I got her to do that. At this point, you may be wondering why I'm tolerating this slow response. At the end of this session in the debrief, I do explain all the reasons and my theories behind it. So if you continue to go ahead and keep watching, you'll hear what those are. So you can hear me counting down slowly, because I really did want her to come and work it off. However, she did come, and you notice she stopped. And how I got her to stop is I actually held on to one of her talons so she couldn't move any further. And that stopped that. And to my remembrance, I don't think she's done it since. So maybe that taught her. Good girl. Boy, you came lickety-split, didn't you? Oh, there's your friend, the turkey vulture. Hey, buddy. Yeah, they're watching you. Yeah, he's watching you. Hey, you gotta stop doing that, okay? So you get yourself in trouble. Here you can see that she still somewhat bounces around, and for whatever reason she tries to go behind me, and I don't know if that's because it's her way of hiding the food from me, or she's hiding from potential predators that could find her and she thinks that I'm going to protect her. But you can see I am not tolerating that anymore. It's just it's a very bad habit, and it has gotten her in trouble more than once, and so I just needed to put a stop to it. Also, you can see I continue. Once I pull her around and she stays still, she kind of tucks her wings in. Actually, she's got them fully tucked right now. I start tidbitting her to reward her for doing this, and knowing that I'm not going to take her food, nobody's going to take her food, and I'm not going to let anybody hurt her or do anything to her while she's on the ground. She just needs to sit there calmly and eat her meal, which she now does. And I'm wanting to say, I'll have to look at all the other videos as I edit them. This might be the last time she's really done that pronounced. So she is improving. She's always picked it up off the lure or done the fair trade quite well. Here she's a little fussy. I don't remember why she was so bothered. I give her a tidbit, and I'm trying to get her to step up, and she's kind of hopping away. That could be due to high weight, and the equipment might have been wrapped around her feet. I can see them doing something with the creance line. But she eventually just picks up like she normally does, and she calmly finishes whatever she's eating, and that ends her day 23. She did okay, really, even though, so she is at 1065. She caught a pack rat 2 days ago at 1060, and so she was low for starting day 13. So pretty much at the beginning of all last week, she was at her lowest weight. And if you watch any of the videos before this, you'll see absolutely how hysterical she was on the lure. I mean, she still gets a little wound up and excited, and yeah, it's hot. And that's the other thing, is we've had all last week, we had a really, a string of cold weather, or cooler weather. I wouldn't say it's cold, but cooler weather. It was certainly cool at night. And so she was at her lower weight. So she was doing very well. I couldn't get away from her by, say, day 16, 17. I couldn't hardly walk away from the perch, and she was coming. Well, you can see today she was very slow. And at one point I almost just ended it, but I knew she was fat. And so, but what I really wanted her to do is I need her to start exercising. So if I just put her up, she would have just done nothing. So I tried to set it up to where it wouldn't reinforce the slow response, but also set her up for success where she could actually work and get rewarded for it. But you saw, and she's done, this is the first time she's done this, and they all do it to some degree, especially falcons. Even little Finley would do it sometimes. Is they would fly and then they would snatch the food off the glove and keep going. That's a sign of high weight. It's not a discipline issue. It's not it's naughty, but she's not doing it to be naughty. It's just what they do. When they're high in weight, it's carrying. She just want to take the tidbit and go. So she's not real interested in hanging out on the glove any longer than she needs to, because quite frankly, she doesn't need the food that much. So you saw her do it twice. I did not give her the food each time she did it. She did not get it. I made her jump up to the glove and she got a very small tidbit for that. The third time, I thought, well, if she does it again, if she tries to fly off with it again, I'll just end it. End of story. At least she's flown, a good distance for 3 times. But what she did was she came and she landed enough on the glove that I grabbed her toe. And I don't know if you can tell in the video where she was starting to take back off, but I had her toe, or something. I don't know if it was her toe or maybe her equipment, and probably her toe. And she stopped and then she stayed and then she got rewarded. So that taught her that you just can't do that. And then no matter how not hungry you are or how naughty you feel like being when you're not hungry, you still have to come and land on the glove. So she did that, and I didn't want to push my luck and do it again, because then it could end in disaster. Oh, thank you. Then it can end in disaster. You could set it up for another failure and you may never get the success again. So I just cut my losses right there. She did what I wanted. She came to the fist. She stayed. And I was just going to do the lure. So, and also what I did was I made her, since she was being so naughty, and the whole point of today is I wanted her to work. She needs to work. She needs to get fit, and it's hard to do on the crayons. I absolutely despise the crayons. You can see how much trouble it is. I have a terrible time with her on it, because she just, once she gets down on the lure or anywhere on the ground, she just spins and just all over the place. And she, and because we're flying at such a long line now, there's so much line and I can't manage it all. And she just gets herself wrapped up in it. It's just, God, I just hate it, but you don't have a choice. You have to use it. And hopefully she's getting her backpack put on the 30th. Her GPS system is here. It arrived yesterday. So obviously 1065 is not her cut loose weight. So I would not say that that is her flying weight, because if I cut her loose, she would bugger off. But it's her response weight. So, 1065 is she'll sort of hop to the fist. But anyway, yeah, I just wanted her to keep going. She's feeling good. She's getting bored during the day as usual. So she needs to be worn out, and the more fit she gets, the more energy she needs to use. So that's what the goal was today. And she was pretty good. So considering how absolutely pig fat she is. So on day 13, when she was an absolute nutcase, twirling around and screaming and just being an absolute nutter, that was 1005. So she is now 60 grams heavier. So you can kind of see the difference. And I explained in the video on day 13, and then ultimately day 15, it happened to the worst degree. And it's not anything she's doing that's her fault. I mean, she's doing it and it's her fault alone. I'm not doing it to her. But, at the end of the day, it's a human construct. She doesn't understand the line. She's just doing what she's doing. And she's a baby, so she still doesn't understand all these weird feelings and instincts and urges of killing and being excited about it. And so it's really not her fault. But you know, so she was at 10:05 on the day 13, and then day 15 she was, you know, of course I saw all that on day 13. I was like, yeah, her weight's got to come up, because when they start acting hysterical like that, some people mistakenly say that they're keen, which they are. They're very keen, but when you got them that they're that crazy, with a falcon, it's not good. And they're so hungry, they're not even thinking straight. And that is not the bird you want. Even if you just bump it up like 5 grams, maybe it'll take that edge off. I don't like them that hysterical. And I made that mistake several years ago with Kubala. The male sacred falcon I had was the other one that did this to me. I was flying him. Well, okay. You got your foot stuck. I'm sorry. That is your fault. Why don't you just sit here and hang out and enjoy being outside? She sees all the birds. She really likes birds. She says, I killed something the other day and that was really fun, so I want to go do it again, which is good. That's what I want her to do. I think she's going to be a lethal young lady. So it was his first season and he'd just gotten off the crayons, not very much, so I was still very nervous about stuff. Wasn't sure how he behaved because I hadn't flown him as much to, you know, have any, you know, long-term data. And so this is when I was in Vermont at a falconry center that had people come, and we had a Japanese group, people from Japan that specifically, wait, you want to put your foot up? You can put your foot up. Yeah. Oh, I see what happened here. Okay, that's what's going on. It was Mommy's fault. Okay. Yeah, why didn't you say so? She goes, well, I did. You didn't hear me hollering? This is too tight. Oh, well. Here, no, don't bite my fingers. She wanted to scratch, so I wanted to give her some extra room. Here, don't bite my fingers. So I had a group from Japan that specifically requested Kubala. And so, you know, this was his first gig. I mean, he was on. So I really wanted to make sure he did a good job. So he was at a good flying weight. He was doing well. And I made the mistake, and it was my mistake. I thought, well, there's a group here. Maybe I'll just, you know, take a little bit more off just to make sure he does what he needs to do. Yeah, well, so I had my coworker, Jessica, let him go far away, and then he would fly. And then I would, you know, stoop him to the lure. Yeah, well, what he did was he flew straight to me, which is what you want. However, he didn't stoop to the lure at all. He flew and landed right at my feet, climbed up my leg, hopped on the fist, and started whining, which was weird. And so I was like, okay. So I don't remember if I gave him a tidbit. I don't think so. Because I had the lure, so obviously I didn't have anything in my hand. So then Jessica came and got him, carried him off. The whole time he's walking with her, you know, looking over her shoulder at me like, you know, it was kind of sad. I can still see it in my mind right now. So she does it again. She lets him go, and he just beelines it, goes straight to my feet, runs up my leg, and does it again. So that's what happens when he was too low. So they do weird stuff when they're too low. And obviously you don't want them too high, because then they, you know, bug off or carry or just, you know, don't do what they're supposed to do or whatever. So they have a very narrow range of weight, you know, and it could be like maybe only 10 grams. So the discipline on weight with these guys are, you know, very narrow. And, or you have to be really spot on with your weight management, very disciplined. She's watching the ravens. Wow. What do you think of that? Ooh, she's gamey. Look, what is that? What is that? She likes watching. She really enjoys being out here, which is why I do this afterwards. So she can, this is her reward. She's got a full-ish crop, and she's worked. Now she can just watch the world, which she loves to do. Anyway, I don't even remember what. So like with Leroy, or the Harris Hawks, I've got a huge window. I can fly them, you know, I mean, it's almost like a 50-gram window. I don't advise that. And you do get varying degrees of good and bad behavior with that range. However, it's not as detrimental. I'm just scratching my arm, sweetie. Hey, look, there's nothing here. I'm just scratching my arm. Okay, can I scratch my arm again? Thank you. There's bugs out here. Yeah, you got food all over your face, by the way. Yeah, it's kind of embarrassing. You know you're on camera, right? Yeah, Jesus, I don't care. Anyway, I knew she was going to be heavy. She caught the pack rat at 1060. And I would say at 1040, she was doing really well. 1040, she was doing really well. Even 1055, she was doing really well. You know, as long as she was doing what I asked, I didn't see any reason to lower her weight, although I knew eventually I would, because it would catch up with her. You may hood her, because I can't have her do all this with a food in her crop, because... So she was doing well at 1050, even 1060, 65, she was doing well. But, you know, she was coming from a deficiency. She wasn't deficient in nutrients or anything. It's not like she's starving, but what I mean is she's coming from a deficiency in weight. And her brain was still thinking, oh, I'm low. So she was still willing to work, even though the numbers said 1050, 1040, 1065, which in, you know, actuality, that's a fat weight for her, or fat-ish weight. So I knew eventually the brain would catch up with what's going on in the body. So that's why you should always kind of, you know, had I thought that she would do as well as she'd been doing the last 3 days and just cut her loose, I would have lost her today. So that's where you need a long string of data and behavior before you can analyze the data and come up with some results and make your decision. So what they do in one day doesn't mean that they'll do it in that day. So you need to get a string of behaviors, and you know, and even then sometimes it can change. They do weird stuff sometimes, but you know, you got to be on the lookout, know their behaviors. So I kind of figure, and it's warm, so climate, weather, what's going on always is a factor too. That has nothing to do with their weight, just how they think that they need energy. It's all about energy management for them, and survival. So, and then so on Sunday, she caught the pack rat, which she did great. She launched off the fist after it with no hesitation. And so for her reward, and what that does, live prey for her, what that does, A, it's moving, A, it's alive. She caught and killed it on her own. The second she saw it and realized what it was, and she just launched and went straight for the head. She didn't do her kiss of death right away, but you know, she is a baby. It was her first live kill, and she did grab it by the head. She killed it. I mean, it did die very quickly. I didn't even need to dispatch it because she took care of it very quickly. But her reward is that warm, you know, the wiggling, the movement, and in their feet. And then when they break in and they get that warm blood, that just solidifies everything about who they are and what their purpose in life is. So she's now kind of figured that out. And I've noticed today she's very different. She's very much looking around, where before she's just kind of a baby, like, you know, hi mom, what are we doing? You know, are you gonna feed me? What are we doing? This is boring. Can I go do something else? Where today she was like looking. So that's the point of, you know, when they get that first live kill, that warm blood just locks it in. So for that, her efforts, she also got a huge crop, which that can be dangerous too. That's another subject. When you've got a bird that's been lower in weight and haven't been getting food regularly, and then all of a sudden you give them a huge meal with a lot of casting, you know, fur or feather, that can cause sauerkraut, especially if it's warm out, can cause sauerkraut, or some sort of impaction issue, or sluggish going through the system. However, because I don't ever fast my birds, even if they don't behave, they always get something, even if it's a small little tidbit like a quail head, or, you know, half of a quail leg, or, you know, a mouse butt or something like that. They always get something that's super hydrated, that keeps everything going. And I also use a spray bottle with purified water or filtered water, and a little bit, and it's laced with a little bit of apple cider vinegar, and that keeps the the bacterial load the microbial activity down in her crop. So, and also because it's acidic, it helps break things down fast. So, you know, she casted a ginormous casting the next day, so she was good, but you got to be careful with that. So anyway, so she got a big meal. Not only did she eat that entire rat, and it was big, but I was tidbitting her. I picked her up with, so she got quail on top of that. So she had a big crop, really big crop, and she was like well into the 1100s. And so her body still thinks she's got that amount of food on board. So now I'm going the opposite direction. Now she's been hovering at the fat working range. Now I'm gonna have to start bringing her back down. So when you go to the bottom and then you go to the top, then you keep working that range in between and you find that sweet spot. And that is your either flying range, weight, depending on what you're doing. And then your hunting weight will be a little bit below that, depending on the bird and the climate and whatever you're doing. So weight management is, and I say this a lot because I get questions a lot about, well, what should her weight be? Well, I don't know. It is whatever it is. And if I picked up another female Saker Falcon, it's not going to be the same. So I have no predetermined weight of what her weight should be. I can kind of guess. I guessed that she would probably fly in the 1050 half, or maybe 1030 range, somewhere around there. I knew it wouldn't be 1100, and I probably figured it wouldn't be in the high 900s. Figured it'd be somewhere in between, the 10s. So what that is, I don't know. So you have to do each bird individually. It is very complex. You have to take all sorts of things into consideration. Just don't use the numbers, or you'll have a dead bird, a sick bird, or an ill-trained bird, a disobedient bird, and it'll just suck for you, and it's very dangerous for the bird, whether they're too fat or they're too low. If they're too fat, yeah, at least they're not going to starve to death. But if you don't have control over them and something happens and they don't come to you quickly, they're in danger of an accident or, some sort of injury, being hit by a car, grabbed by a predator, shot by a person. I get creepy people up in the field all the time. It's really kind of weird. Which is why I park away from the road where nobody can see me. Otherwise, I get all sorts of weirdos watching me. And I'm usually in the middle of nowhere, which is kind of weird. But anyway, and I do have them walk up to me in the middle of nowhere, which is very disconcerting. However, but, too low, obviously, you've got performance issues. You're going to have health issues and potentially death issues. I had 2 apprentices that I just could not beat this into their head because one of them thought that they knew more than me, with her vast experience and years of it. No. And they were getting advice from other people that didn't know the situation. And that is usually a lot of people's go-to solution: lower their weight. Lower their weight. Well, that wasn't the issue. That wasn't the problem. It was the problem that the bird was too low. And also the problem was poor nutrition and bad husbandry. That's why their birds weren't performing. It wasn't a too fat issue. It was a husbandry and a nutrition issue. Which I found out later after they both nearly killed their birds and I also dropped them. They were lying and not telling me the full story. So they both put their birds in danger, basically for ego. Take all that in consideration. And don't listen to anybody else that doesn't understand what you're doing. They don't know the bird. They haven't seen you out in the field. Don't listen. You can describe it to them. You can take them out in the field. You can ask their advice just to get, other ideas rolling around in your brain. But, don't blindly take people's advice, including me. If I haven't seen your bird, I can't tell you. People ask me advice all the time. And I don't know. I can tell you a generic answer, but I can't tell you anything else. And I never tell anybody to lower the bird's weight, ever. ever, ever, never. I say, look at these things first. And, you know, then you need to start looking at weight management. Is it this? Is it that? Is this happening? Is that happening? But I never say, lower the bird's weight. Never. You ready to go inside where it's air conditioned? Yeah, we've got a hot spell coming, so this is going to kind of suck for a while. Okay, so that's her. This is the start of her week 4. I think if I really pushed it, I could cut her loose within a week. But I want to wait until the backpack gets on, and it would be kind of nice if we had a little bit cooler weather, because that does make things a little bit easier. But until then, I will just keep challenging her in different ways with the crayons on, getting her fit. This is gonna, so when I do cut her loose, I don't want her too fit, because if she does bug off, I don't want to be chasing her for miles and miles and miles. I'd rather her poop out and you know, and I just go get her, and then I'm like, oh, okay, well, you know, that weight won't work, which I've never had one do that. But I don't want to start with her. And I have a feeling this bird is going to be, she's been good, but at the same time, she's incredibly confident and somewhat stubborn and thinks she has her own ideas. And I can totally see her just going, I don't need you, see ya. But, you know, that's what I'm trying to get her. I'm food, you need to stay with me, and your life will be great. It's tough out there, you don't know what it's like. So yeah, week 4. We didn't do anything yesterday. Yesterday was her day off. And not my day off, but my day off of training, because I had to go into town. So that's why we did Sunday, cropped up, you know, porky pig fat. And I knew yesterday she would be basically useless. So why try and set it up for bad habits or a bad experience or a negative experience? So she just got the day off, and I had to go in town with a bunch of meetings and appointments and other kinds of stuff. So anyway, so her first day of her 4th week, done and dusted. Her weight needs to come down. We are on day 24. She is 10 grams fatter than she was yesterday. And if you watched the video from yesterday, she was a little naughty. So we'll see what happens. And this is going to be a good demonstration, you know, about when they get a little bit fat. We've got warmer weather. She's kind of locking in on certain behaviors. So we'll have a chat about that a little bit later. And I also chatted a lot about it yesterday. So I'm going to get going because she's impatient. Let's go. Hurry. Hurry. I know, Chubby. Come on. I don't know how you did that. Really don't. Okay, I'm editing this video right now, and I'm not sure where the second half of this video went. The GoPro must have shut off, because it does that every once in a while randomly. But what I'm doing here is she got the crayons line really tangled, and I took the rest of the time of this video to undo it. So there is a debrief at the end of this that's much shorter than the day before, I promise. But it will probably enlighten of what happened. Okay, that was interesting. I don't know if I was actually expecting her to be as keen or as responsive as she was, given the way she acted yesterday. However, if we unpack that a minute, it does kind of make sense. So I she caught a large pack rat on Sunday. Today is Wednesday, so that was 3 days ago. So she got a ginormous crop for it. And then Monday, the next day, she was off. And so then I did, started back up yesterday. She was 1065 after being well into the 1100s. So her body was still saying, oh, well, we've got kind of like all this food on board. So she was a little slow. She did the flyby stealing the tidbit off the glove, which is a big indicator that she was too high for that day. But then she was 10 grams more today, and it's a little bit cooler than it was yesterday. They're not losing as much weight. Actually, she lost no weight. She actually gained 10 grams. So I kind of expected the same as yesterday. But once I got her going after that first one, she got her wheels greased or whatever it's called. I can never remember what it's called. Anyway, she's like, oh, so then I was like, okay, well, in the beginning, I don't know if you noticed, she came, the first time was really slow, which sometimes it can be, but once they get going, a lot of falcons I have found that, once they get that first one going, then they're okay. So at this point, I would rather her lose weight by burning it off through work and exercise than withholding food. Because right now what I'm doing is trying to build her muscles and build her fitness, and I do this with all my birds, not just her. Which if you're trying to build muscle and fitness, it kind of doesn't make sense to withhold the nutrients and the protein and the energy. So you don't want to do that, and I try not to do that. So I try to get them to burn things through exercise, and it's much more effective and healthier, and you get your end result. So I thought, well, I'll just do a bunch of short jump ups because she'll probably come to those. Well, she was, and then when I had that one time where she came before I even called her, and I could hear her whining, and so I thought, okay, well, I'm gonna max it out and make her work even further. And then once she did that, bam, I was going to give her the lure because I did not want to push it. I wanted to end on a good note. And so the last thing she remembers in her brain is she came to me, landed on the fist from a far distance. She hits the glove so hard. There's a down feather rolling across the... Is that interesting? That's so interesting. Yeah, you're a good girl. So the last thing I want her to remember, or the last thing she will remember, is, ooh, I came a really long way and I stayed on the glove. I didn't do all this nonsense. And then I got my lure, and then now I'm full. Now I can, bounce around and be a baby the rest of the day. So that's what she's going to remember. So she's most likely to repeat that because it's a positive thing in her memory. She may get mad or confused or think that, I'm punishing her, or she loves my hands. This is why, do not bare hand feed your bird, ever. This is why. I don't know where she learned this. I never bare hand feed my birds. So I don't know where she learned this. She came like this. So, just saying. So this is her day 25. I can't see. Day 25, she is 1070. So she's 5 grams lower than she was yesterday, and she did pretty good. The day before she was a poop head. Where is it that you think you're going? You can't see. That's why it's a crash helmet. So this is going to be a bit of a different training session that you're going to watch here. So some of you may not know that I'm actually a nonprofit organization, the International Raptor and Falconry Center, which is also the name of the channel. And other than hopefully being a great jack slayer, Enedina is also a member of the flying team that does education. And part of the education are raptor and falconry experiences. And this includes taking people out in the field, and she flies to the participants' gloved hands, and they experience her up close and personal. And it's a really good impact for conservation. So what I'm going to do here is she's going to fly to my housemate Trevor's glove. She sees him, she's familiar with him. So this is less of a disastrous, or it's more of a safe test run for her. Um, you know, she gets confused. You'll see that she is confused, but she does handle it okay. She wasn't scared or frightened of him. She's just confused, which is why you do this. And I wanted to see how she handled it. So clearly she didn't go to the glove. I wasn't surprised. But what you can see me do is have Trevor take his hat off, and if you have a bird that's new and a little bit nervous, you can do the same. You know, take the hat off or turn it backwards. Those mirrored sunglasses are another problem, or can be a problem. Some of my birds don't like them. Just make yourself as less threatening as possible. Don't stare your bird down, and just try to make yourself a small statured, non-threatening person. You can see Trevor is a very large person. He's very tall, very hairy. He's got a very thick, scraggly beard. So to a bird, that might be scary. I mean, he might be a dangerous animal that might want to eat her. I don't know. So just, be mindful of that when you're working with a new bird. And you can see she immediately turns around and looks for me, probably for food. But, there probably was a little bit of wanting reassurance, guidance, and, she was confused. So I certainly didn't give any negative reinforcement for it. I just reassured her and put her back and tried again. So you can see the second try was a success. I only did it once. I didn't push my luck. I didn't want to traumatize her. And as you can see, when she was sitting on the glove with Trevor, I gave her lots of good girls and a lot of good tidbitting, so she knows that's a good place to be. And to solidify this as a positive interaction, of course, I removed Trevor from the equation and gave her what she really wanted, and that was the lure. So everything ended on a positive. She got introduced to something new. Yeah, well, that didn't go as planned. Right now, I'm just trying to keep the lure line from wrapping around her neck, because you can see she still goes in circles a little bit.
I know, that mommy is just so screwed up. Oh my goodness. She just knows. I need to start making it a little less predictable. I wanted to do more of a high catch, but I couldn't unwind it enough, and it was too short. Pretty good, actually. Okay, hey, there's nothing here. So I'm tidbitting her less on the lure because she's getting kind of footy.
So if you have a bird that's starting to get footy or a little bit food aggressive or sticky footed on the glove, just take a little bit of the food out of the equation. That's why they're doing it. Sacred falcons are known for being kind of bullying, and she certainly is going to be a bully, I think. Also, you can hear me say in a minute, I have no food, and I'll show her my hands. Sometimes if you just show them that you don't have food, that kind of calms them down. And this ends her day 25 training. And this is her day 26. Coincidentally, the next day after explaining that she also does education, this is her doing an education program for the Arboretum in Flagstaff. And she's showing off on her lure right there.
Can't get away from you.
I have no idea where the first part of this video went. Probably disappeared into GoPro land. But apparently she was very keen that day, and you will soon find out just how keen she was. Oh, you turd. Yeah. Okay. You turkey. Yeah. That wasn't nice. Ouch. Yeah, I sure hope I didn't do something to my back. Well, that's what I get for thinking I can outrun a Saker Falcon. So what she did was she did outfly me, of course, naturally, because I'm slow and shouldn't have been running in the first place with, just spinal surgery. I think at this point was maybe 6 weeks out. I shouldn't have been doing anything, let alone running or trying to outrun a Saker Falcon. But anyway, so what she did was, she did outrun me, whatever you want to call it. And she banked right in front of my feet. And of course, I saw that and was scared to death that I was going to step on her. So in the process, what I did was fumble over my own feet, trying to stop them from doing that, and started to fall. And then I was obviously afraid I was going to fall on her. So in the video, which I deleted, you can see that I put my right arm out and my right knee hit the ground at the same time, and she was in between those. So that broke, I guess, the fall or whatever. I still fell, but it stopped it from falling on her. So she was fine. Me, not so much. My back seemed to be okay. I was a little surprised, actually. I don't think I undid anything. But oh my goodness, my right knee, this is over 2 weeks ago, and it still hurts. Be very glad when we're on dirt or grass.
Hey, easy on the tail feathers, baby.
Once again, I have no idea what GoPro did with the video. I can't find it. It's not on the SD card, so it just didn't record. Why it decided to pick up right here, I don't know. But I do a debrief right after this, so just keep watching, and I summarize all sorts of things. Ouch. Ooh, my knee. Clearly she did well, because I'm not saying any dirty words other than obviously my knee still hurts. But this is a good example of a really good pickup where that's how it's supposed to look. Where she just calmly steps up, I take the lure away and or pray if this was a kill, and this is how it's done. Day 28, this absolutely ends her 4th week. So I don't know if I will probably still record every day, but may condense it a lot unless there's something I want to point out. But she was at 10:65. She's coming, but you saw where she got really far away, and she just saw, well, what happens if I keep going? I don't know where she thought she was going to go, but she kept going, and so I, got the line and brought her down. Had I not done, had she not been on the creance and she would have kept going, I would have immediately got the lure out and did the lure whistle, and that's my insurance policy to bring her back. Hopefully that would encourage her to make a U-turn and come around, but I don't know. Having seen that, I would not cut her loose at 1065. So even if she's like a little hysterical and a little, clingy, when I first let her go, at least she'll come back to me. And as she builds muscles, and it gets cooler, I can build weight. But I don't have any sunglasses on because I broke them, so I feel like I'm blind. I need to get a pair of sunglasses that are actually prescription. Nothing like having a pair of eyeballs coming at you at 95 miles an hour. So she did pretty good. She's been pretty good. She was actually panting at the end of this, which is what I wanted. I wanted her to do many to get her fit and quite frankly worn out as well, because she feels good. She's ready to do stuff. This was her crop update, so you can see she's got a very large crop and she's got a messy face, so she gets to enjoy the rest of the day watching the world go by. Anyway, that's the end of her 4th official week of training.